Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us to learn about how ShipStation integrates with aACE. My name is Shannon Cook, Vice President here at aACE Software. Today, you'll be hearing from Brian Full, Director of Product Development. We also have Aaron Nolan here, aACE Product Specialist. A few more details. This webinar is being recorded, and after this meeting, we will send you a link so that you can download the recording. All participants are muted, but if you'd like to ask a question about what you see, please do so at any time using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to our presenter, Brian. You can share your screen and jump in.
Great, thanks, Shannon. So as Shannon mentioned, today we're going to be talking about our aACE Plus ShipStation integration. Just to set the stage a little bit, if you remember last week, we talked about the pick app. So in the overall workflow that we're working through, we created some orders. Those automatically generated a few shipments. The shipments were handed off to the warehouse so that they could pick the product off the shelves. If you weren't able to make that webinar, I definitely suggest watching the recording because it's a good one. With that said, you don't have to use the pick app to pick orders. If you've got a different method for doing that, by all means, use it. You could even, pick directly from your shipping solution, such as ShipStation. So we're going to be talking about that now. Before we get too far, I do want to note that the sample company that we play with is called aACE Educational Solutions, and they sell educational technology, resources, and programs for students, teachers, and school administrators. So the test data that we see today are going to be things pertaining to schools, such as textbooks. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Brian, before we go too far, did you want to give the new software disclaimer?
Oh, yeah. So this is new software. We just released it a few months ago, so we are working out some of the kinks. If we do run into a bug, then it's probably minor, but we'll definitely get that resolved before you would even go live with the software. Thanks for that, Aaron. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here. All right, so y'all can see my screen?
Yes.
Wonderful. That new software disclaimer is actually especially important because we're going to be using the browser today, which is brand new to aACE 6.
Yeah.
So if it looks like I don't want to say struggling, but it's brand new to me too. Obviously, it looks and feels very, very, very similar to the FileMaker version, the thin client. But it's new to me too. So if I click a button and maybe it takes me somewhere I'm not sure about, then we'll note it and get it fixed. But I think we'll be fine. We'll be okay. But yeah, we're gonna be playing with the browser. We're gonna be accessing these through the browser today, so that's super cool. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is just quickly create an order for us to play with. We're gonna keep it simple. I'm gonna click over here to order management, orders. This opens up my orders module. You can see that I've got a handful of orders in the system already, but like I said, I want to create a new one that we can play with. So I'm going to click the new button, right? Oh, yeah, okay. New sales order. And then let's keep it simple for ourselves. We're just going to do full steam. And then we're going to enter a textbook. And we've got other webinars that get more into actual data entry and creating new orders or whatnot. Like I mentioned just a minute ago, I want to kind of queue up something that's kind of easy for us to play with. And I'm going to move through this pretty quickly. Obviously, if you've got questions, I'm happy to answer them. But like I said, there are other webinars and recordings that really dig into this area of the system. So I'm going to go ahead and save, open this order. It's probably also worth mentioning that Zoom kind of slows things down. This actually works quite, this isn't slow by any means, but it is a little bit faster when Zoom's not running. Okay, so I opened my order. We can see over here in the management tab, shipping and receiving, that I got a shipment automatically generated. I mentioned this last week, but aACE does consider the shipment as a separate transaction from the order. What that allows us to do is split an order into multiple shipments if required. So if we've got a back order situation, or if we want to send different products to different locations, we can do that. That gives us quite a bit of flexibility by splitting those two modules or splitting those two data sets into different records. We covered this last week. Is the shipment gets automatically generated with ready to pick. It's going to go through that whole pick process. But then when it's ready to transmit to your shipping solution, so you can print labels and get costing and do all of that jazz, that's where our ShipStation comes in. And what I'm going to do here is select from the actions menu, transmit. Now, this is a manual process right now just for demo purposes so that we can push it along. In a normal implementation of the solution, this is going to be automatic. This is typically an automatic workflow. So it is ready to pick, goes to the pick app, comes back from the pick app, automatically marks it as ready to transmit, then it gets transmitted to the shipping solution. So this module we're looking at right now, the shipment module, depending on your implementation, in a lot of instances is entirely invisible to your users. The data is important, and so that's why we're looking at it right now, but the workflow in a lot of implementations is automatic. And so this isn't typically a module that users themselves interact with. But again, we want to see how the data is transferring between the multiple systems. So let's go ahead and transmit this shipment. And that is packaging up the details of this shipment and sending it to ShipStation, which we're going to see in a second. We can see here that the status of this shipment is now transmitted. So that's telling aACE that this is basically in a different system right now. It's in ShipStation, and it's just going to periodically query ShipStation for information. Have I shipped yet? Have I shipped yet? Have I shipped yet? Have I shipped yet? What's my tracking information? What's my costing information? So on and so forth. And we're going to see that in a couple of minutes. While we're at it, let me just go ahead and for kicks, let's take another one of our pending shipments and just set the tracking status. This is the driver of that automated behavior that I mentioned. It'll take a couple minutes for it to kick in, but we will see this shipment pop into ShipStation. But that automated workflow that I was referring to is contingent on this tracking status being marked as ready to transmit. Like I said, well, that was a lot faster than I thought it was. That's pretty cool. But yeah, as the data is handed off between the different solutions, at some point we will set the tracking status to ready to transmit, and then aACE will take it from there. Okay, so I'm going to pop up ShipStation. We're going to take a look at some of this data. We're going to get it shipped out. But before I do that, does anybody have any questions for me on that workflow?
Not yet, Brian. It looks like everyone's settling into the webinar.
Wonderful.
Ready to see it.
All right, cool. So I'm just going to tab over to ShipStation. You see I've already logged into my account. I'm going to do a little refresh here. And we can see that these new records loaded in. These older ones, that was just me playing in preparation of the webinar yesterday, just sort of setting some stuff up. These are the new ones. Now, I should point out two things. One is that I'm not a ShipStation expert. I know about as much as I need in order to get that aACE shipping integration working. ShipStation is a third-party solution that we're integrating with. So what I can do is show you that essential workflow. But if you do have some specific questions about what ShipStation is capable of, then you might consider reaching out to their support team. But like I said, we'll focus on that essential component that that we care about today. I should also mention that ShipStation has different terminology than we do. The way ShipStation works is, it's assuming that you're passing an entire order into it. A lot of times it's coming from WooCommerce or Shopify or one of your e-commerce solutions. This is coming from aACE. And I mentioned before that we take an order and we move it into the shipping module. So what we call a shipment, ShipStation is calling an order. So just briefly, we can see that this order 60004 in ShipStation is shipment 6004 in aACE. It's not that complicated. It takes a little getting used to, but I just wanted to point that out if you're like, what is this order number if it's a shipment? But I did want to point that out. Okay, so let's go ahead and click into, what was the one that I wanted? Let's just take a quick look at all of our transmitted shipments. Okay, this is the one we just created, is 60009. So let's click into 60009. So we can see all of the information was transferred. We have the shipping address. This is obviously very important. You'll see while we do this demo that we're going to see a couple of errors that are just not going to be present in a production environment. Obviously, this is fake data. I'm just entering, whatever comes to mind. So that is not a real address. And it looks like I transmitted. Okay, so this is actually a good test. I did not anticipate this, but it's telling me that international address validation is not supported. That means it transmitted somewhat incorrectly. It transmitted exactly how I entered it. You can see here that my, I guess it doesn't actually show up. What we're looking at here is what we're seeing here rather is that the country passed in as United States, and I was expecting something else. So, or passed in as USA or something, whatever it was, it didn't expect it. So we did get an error, but again, if there's something that needs to be fixed in ShipStation, maybe something was inaccurate, maybe the shipping address needs to be updated, maybe it wants to validate with the +4. There are opportunities here in ShipStation to, update the data to make it more accurate before actually handing it off to UPS. So obviously, if we had our country code correct in the system, then it would have transferred perfectly fine. But this is the comment that I was trying to make before, is this is not a real address. So it's going to kick out an error that you wouldn't get in a production environment. But it's still going to let us ship it. Obviously, if UPS comes and picks it up, they're not going to be able to deliver it, but we're not going to get that far. Let's just for kicks check this other one. Okay, yeah, I guess my country code is not configured correctly. That's totally fine. Okay, so 60009, I've got my shipping address. Obviously, I've got my line items. Those are important as well. Your shipping department needs to know what they're shipping. If you're looking at some of this shipment order details and you're wondering why some of this data is missing, I wouldn't consider it missing, only because we're not handing it off to ShipStation. Obviously, ShipStation has a feature set that is larger than what we are using it for. Technically, we could pass that data into ShipStation, but there's no point. You've already got an ERP solution in aACE. aACE is your system of record for all of your accounting. So the missing data isn't actually missing. All we're trying to focus on is, the pertinent information for your shipping department to print labels and get the packages out the door. Okay, so got my fake address, got my fake line items. All I need to do now is, enter some details. I can have this plugged into a, what is it called when you weigh something? Anyway, the device that weighs boxes.
A scale?
A scale. You can have a scale plugged into here. We're just going to say it's half a pound because I don't want this shipment to be too expensive. We're just going to do like a UPS ground. And then the package is package. And you can do, size and weights, not. So I'm seeing a question pop up from Stephanie. Is the sold to information the same as the bill to? Yes, this is pulling from aACE. So this is my shipping address, but if I jump back to my order, it is this. So that's what this is pulling from. Now, obviously, this is billing and shipping to the same person. If that was, two different people, for example, then we'd we'd see that. Let me actually make a little note. Let's play with that, and then we can also make sure that if we enter our address correctly, that we'll get the right country. So let's kind of get to a logical conclusion, and then we'll run and do another test with that as our scenario. So let me just make a quick note: bill to, separate, ship to. Okay, so let's see. All right, so I'm shipping from Brooklyn. It's half a pound UPS ground package. So this is the rate UPS is going to charge us. Let's go ahead and create and print the label. So it's doing some thinking. Okay, so this is our label. This is what your shipping department is going to print out. This is what they're going to stick on the box. This is what UPS is going to come pick up and then deliver to this fake address in California. We're obviously not going to print that and do that right now, but that would be the workflow. So let's go ahead and close this window. The important part for the shipping integration is that we can see here in the top that the shipment has now been shipped. I can see here that my tracking number is 1Z, et cetera, et cetera. And then I can see that the total cost was $9.54. So those are kind of the key data points that we're interested in right now. Okay, so let's close out of this. Let's jump back to aACE and see if that shipment has shipped yet. That was what, 60009?
Yes.
Okay, so what aACE is doing, this actually happened quite quickly. aACE periodically queries ShipStation for the status of the shipment. I mentioned this before. It just says, have I shipped yet? Have I shipped yet? Have I shipped yet? Et cetera, et cetera. And I see that Mike has a question, and I'll answer that in one minute. Okay, so what it did is it said, okay, well, 60009 has shipped, so get me the data. And the data it got was that tracking information, so that's cool. It got me my weight. I can see that this is half a pound, and I can see that my cost was $9.54. So it got all that information. It said, okay, this is great. Updated my shipment record, and then it marked my shipment as shipped. So now as far as aACE is concerned, as far as this order is concerned, you know, I have shipped. I've updated my shipping costs. We've got another webinar on this in a few weeks, but it grabbed my shipping cost. It applied a markup. It also updated my shipment here as shipped. So you can see all of this data just sort of pouring into the system and, you know, triggering various events, including but not limited to the invoicing event. So we did get an invoice. It upcharged that shipping, and then it, you know, created the invoice for that order. So we've got a couple of questions to answer, but does anybody have any questions on how that portion of the integration worked?
It looks like we just have that question from Mike Bryan. Do you want to tackle that now?
Yes. So let's go ahead and let's close out of some of these windows.
So Mike was asking, if we use our customer's UPS account, how is the charge and cost handled?
So when that happens, this is going to be partially a question for us and honestly probably a question for ShipStation, so we might need to reach out to them. But we do have the capability in aACE to store a customer's account number. So if you do use their UPS account number, you can enter it into here. So you would say UPS. If they do have a preferred service, maybe that's ground, maybe it's whatever, you could also do that at the order level on a case-by-case basis. But this is where you would enter their account number. That account number, when you create the order, is going to transfer into this field. Then when it generates a shipment, and then when it transfers that data to ShipStation, it's going to include that as the third-party billing number. And in that case, you don't get charged that shipping cost that we just saw, that $9.54, doesn't exist. It's just going to be $0. So it's not going to do any upcharge. It's not going to cost anything to you. It's going to be billed to your customer. So on the aACE side of things, it just looks like $0, but that account number does get handed off to ShipStation, and that is what will get used to, do the rating, to do the billing, to do all of that. Okay, so let's do this. Let's do duplicate this order just to get my line items. And then let's just kind of see what happens if we've got a bill to that's separate from the ship to. Okay, so let's keep the bill to as full steam. Who do we want to make so they don't have any children items. Let's just make me the ship to. If you want to send me cookies or something, that's not my real address. If you want to send me cookies, then I'll give you my address offline.
I was about to hop on Crumble right now.
I just wanted to make sure that address. Actually, if you're doing lots of US, I think the US is going to be the default. Let's just stick with this. Let's see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to save this and open it. I ran a test before, and I think it didn't kick out that international error because the country was blank, and then it auto set USA or United States and ship in the ShipStation. But I just want to make sure we don't get that error if we actually tell it it's USA. Okay, so we opened that order, we got our shipment. Let's just push this guy through. Actions, transmit. It's transmitted, bounce over here, refresh. Does anyone remember 10? Okay, so I didn't get my international error, but I did get the invalid address because, again, that's just something that I made up. And then we have sold to Tina and shipped to Brian. So that all worked as expected. So that's cool. I didn't think it wasn't not going to work. I just wanted to make sure.
Right. Want to be accurate.
Okay, that actually concludes what I wanted to show everybody. Our ShipStation integration is the point of these things is to be as seamless as possible. So that's really what I wanted to show everybody. Does anybody have any questions? Any questions for me?
We'll give it a second in case anyone's typing up any questions. Great, so it doesn't look like we have any questions, so I will take us out. All right, so if you're interested in looking into more webinars, please visit our website, showme.asoft.net, where you can browse our library of previously recorded webinars. So before we wrap up, I'd like to thank all of you for attending and sharing your questions during the presentation. You'll get a link to this recording so that you can watch it again or share it with colleagues who couldn't join us today. If you think of any questions we didn't cover, you can always reach out to us at sales@asoft.com, and we'll be happy to get you an answer. You can also sign up for future webinars at asoft.com/webinars. Thanks again, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your week. Hope to see you next time.